The joy of victory was overshadowed by the grief and pain of gruesome killing of intellectuals by the Pakistani command and their local agents, the Al Badrs, the secret killing squad composed of leading student activists of Jamaat-e-Islami. The professors, journalists, doctors, poets, academics were picked up blindfolded from their home and murdered to be dumped at the riverside brickfield. This happened 2 days before the surrender and reflected the deep hatred for the Bengalis the other side had. This is the killing field of the intellectuals, and this is an unbelievable brutality. They are all the leading intellectuals of the country, and this is the fate that they have embraced. She is Selina Parveen, a poet and editor of a journal titled Shila Lipi, Writing on the Stone, and this is how she was picked up and killed. So after independence, Bangladesh raised the issue of justice for the crimes of genocide and crimes against humanity. But 1970s was a dark period for international justice initiative. After the pioneering efforts of Nuremberg and Tokyo Tribunal and the adoption of Genocide Convention in 1948, no further steps could be taken in a world torn by Cold War rivalries. This period has been termed by Diane Orentlicher as a half-century of silence, and Bangladesh genocide became victim of such imposed silence. For the international community, the long silence ended when Cold War was over with the collapse of the Soviet Union. This led to the establishment of two tribunals by the United Nations, the ICTY in 1993 and ICTR in 1994 for the former Yugoslavia and Rwandan genocide. Diane Orentlicher wrote, quote, "One of the hallmarks of this period has been an explosion of ethnic violence, at times entailing crimes against humanity. At the same time, the end of Cold War also opened up the way to superpower cooperation to establish tribunals that can punish epic crimes," unquote. This was quoted in this book, War Crimes, edited by Belinda Coopers. But the new beginning in the international arena did not have any significance for Bangladesh, as it was not only a victim of silence, but also that of forgetfulness of massive atrocities committed in this land. It is very surprising that a nation which received so much attention of the global community could be so completely forgotten in the subsequent years and decades. Ian Martin, the former Secretary General of Amnesty International, in a lecture delivered at the Liberation War Museum, Dhaka, on March 22, 2011, pondered over the issue and observed that very few of the human rights organizations working internationally today existed in 1971. As a result, quote, "the world of non-governmental human rights and transitional justice organizations has, for the most part, not carried within itself the memory of researching and protesting the crimes of 1971 as it does when they have been carried out more recently on their watch. But I remain perplexed that most well-informed people of a strong human rights commitment, if asked to cite the genocide and mass atrocities of the 20th century, will not think to include East Bengal 1971. Perhaps the most widely read recent book on genocide, Samantha Power's A Problem from Hell, has just one paragraph on Bangladesh, although it amply deserves to be fully analyzed within her theme of successive failures of US administrations to act to prevent such atrocities, unquote. This is the monumental work by Samantha Power, which is otherwise a very brilliant contribution. We can cite many more examples. The most recent book published in 2012 is by David Sheffer, President Clinton's ambassador at large for war crimes issues. The book titled All the Missing Souls, A Personal History of the War Crimes Tribunal. This great work of an intimate journey of a man of commitment to international justice had no reference on Bangladesh genocide. The same is true for the book War Crimes, The Legacy of Nuremberg, edited by Belinda Cooper, that has been mentioned earlier. Another significant book, Crimes Against Humanity, The Struggle for Global Justice, by very important prosecutor Jeffrey Robertson, QC, whom we remember as who did the prosecution against Pinochet, the dictator of Chile. In his book also has no reference of Bangladesh genocide or justice. But there are exceptions also, and one such work is Daniel Jonah Goldhagen's book, Worse Than War, Genocide, Eliminationism, and the Ongoing Assault on Humanity, published in 2009, which elaborately discussed the issue of Bangladesh genocide and also the rape of women during 1971 conflict. This is some of the books, like the book by Joseph Cummins also, which have very little reference about Bangladesh genocide. This is Jeffrey Robertson's book, and this is one exception which has been published recently. In such a scenario, the newly independent nation of Bangladesh initiated a justice process of its own with the proclamation of Collaborators Act in 1972 to try in the local courts large number of people accused of war crimes. For the major perpetrators, Bangladesh initiated a unique process with the adoption of International Crimes Tribunal Act of 1973, popularly known as ICTBD. This is the Gazette notification of the International Crimes Tribunal, which was formulated on 2010. Bangladesh was left alone, but it was not that lonely in formulating the International Crimes Tribunal Act. This effort got support of international jurists and academics who was involved with the Nuremberg justice process, and after a long lapse in 1970, these people established the foundation for the establishment of an international criminal court. They organized their first conference in 1970 in Illinois, USA, and the second conference was held in 1972 in Bellagio, Italy, where Bangladesh was represented. Two of the experts of this process, Professor Hans Heinrich Jeschek and Professor Otto Trifterer, worked with Bangladesh in formulating the act. And that act, which was approved by the Parliament in 1973, Bangladesh also made the first amendment of its constitution to give a constitutional protection to this act. But Bangladesh could not proceed with the justice process as the political scenario changed with the killing of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in 1975 and a long period of denial of justice and forced impunity followed. It is understandable that the act as amended in 2010, under which now the justice process has been initiated, this act can be critically evaluated, but its historic significance as first such national legislature for international crimes cannot be denied. Moreover, this act evolved out of the global initiative of justice, however marginalized that might be in the 1970s. It is also significant that The Third Congress for the Establishment of International Criminal Court was held in Dhaka, Bangladesh in December 1974. And we can remember here that the Statute for International Criminal Court, the Rome Statute, was adopted in 1998, and the court started its function in 2002 with the ratification by more than 62 countries. So we can proudly declare that Bangladesh has also made its humble contribution in the search for international justice system. And this is the proceedings of the Third International Criminal Law Conference held in Dhaka on December 1974. At the end, I would like to quote from a recent article by Professor Otto Trifterer from the book Old Evidence and Core International Crimes. This book has been published as an e-book in last September. In the book he wrote, quote, "National jurisdictions may prosecute the relevant crimes committed even prior to the Act 1973 and its amendments of 2009. Thus, Bangladeshi criminal justice system may become of importance for the interpretation of the Rome Statute and for the perpetrators who can be held responsible by the Rome Statute and through its organs. In this sense, we can only wish that Bangladesh holds fair trials and interprets the law bearing in mind the need to strictly construe it according to internationally accepted standards. Good luck," unquote. At this historic juncture, to uphold truth and justice for past crimes, Bangladesh requires a lot of good luck, and good luck also to the international community in their endeavor to play its due role to end the impunity in Bangladesh and ensure fair trial for the crimes committed 40 years ago. Good luck to all. Thank you, and thank you everyone who is participating in this very important historic meeting. And we are thankful to South Asia Democratic Forum for initiating such a very exciting and important process to bring Bangladesh genocide back into the map of the genocide of 20th century. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mafidul Haq, for your very comprehensive presentation. I think that especially the style of the photos and the text were sufficiently clear on the main message you wanted to pass. In the meantime, Senator Lindman had to leave us because she was requested at the vote at the Senate, which was, by the way, a tight vote, as she informed me. You know that the Senate in France has a tight majority, so the presence is actually very, very important, not like in the Parliament, where the majority is bigger. So I think that we all understand that Senator Lindman could not stay here with us to the rest of the session. We are now going to pursue with Q&A, questions and answers, or even some declarations if some of you want to make them. All of the conferences, I said in the beginning, is being registered, and we intend to place it in the public dominion. So if any of you have any objection, or if any of you think it would feel more comfortable to express his views in confidence, just let us know. We can perfectly skip parts of a debate that we would like to be a lively debate, where we would like to have your deep questions, and where nobody should be felt restricted in its capacity to dig into this historical drama. So I don't know who wants to start from your side.
Are
Yes,
there any
please.
Bengali left? Are there any Bengali left in Bangladesh?
Any?
Bengali, Hindu, Bengali, Hindu.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, how many? What is the percentage of Hindu left?
Well, there were 10 million refugees, and most of them were Hindus. And majority of them came back to the country. And now we have about 12% of minority community in Bangladesh. So it was not like in West Pakistan when in 1947 they have this exchange of population policy where the Hindus were sent back to East Punjab, and from East Punjab Muslims were thrown back.
And what is the relationship nowadays between the two communities, the Hindus and the Bangladeshi?
Well, Bangladesh, when it's adopted its constitution, the basic principle that it emphasized is that democracy, secularism. So that's the basis of our liberation struggle, that we rejected the two-nation theory, that Muslims are one nation. We uphold our religious identity, but there can be multinational, multicultural, and secularism is one of the main pillars of our constitution, which was actually changed after the military government came to power. But now again with the amendment of the constitution, this has been incorporated in another way, this liberal secular philosophy. So there are problems between communities, but that is not a problem which it was like before. And also with the legacy of the past, when the Hindu property was declared as enemy property during the Pakistan rule, now this law is also in the process of amendment. So the relationship is improving, and Bangladesh is committed to protect the right of the minorities, and the Hindu communities in Bangladesh is very much part of the mainstream community.
Thank you. What is the actual progress of the International War Crimes Tribunal that has been implemented by the present government? And do you think that its work could be over before the next elections next year?
Well, what is very significant is that there was a denial of justice, and there was an forced impunity which was imposed by the perpetrators when they became part of the ruling class in collaboration with the military dictators. And this was reversed in 2008 in the national election, when this became a major issue in the election, and the people overwhelmingly voted for the process of justice. And that actually turned the whole scenario. It is not that present government has initiated. Present government has stood for the issue of justice, and they were given a mandate, especially the young voters who now form the majority of the voting population, and that started the process. The tribunal was established on the basis of the 1973 Act. There were some amendments of the Act which has given more right to the defense, and originally there was supposed to be a military member also in the tribunal, which is not now. Now it is a civil tribunal, and also defense has got the chance to make an appeal to the appellate division of the Supreme Court. And now 12 people has been accused of the crimes of genocide and crimes against humanity. And of them, about 9% the trial is going, about 3 the indictments are under process. And the major criminals are on the dock, which is really something very historic, because they were very much supported also by foreign powers, that many countries give them asylum, and now they are facing their trial for their role. And their role is mostly, as the law defines, is complicity, abetment, instigation, which is equally punishable under any international criminal law. And 3 or 4 trial is now nearing the end. The witness has made their submission, both the defense and prosecution has done their job, and now the closing statement is being made. So we think that within a month, 3-4 cases will come to a close, and then they have the option to make an appeal to the appellate division. There is a time limit. They have to do it within 30 days. So maybe most of the cases will be over within the tenure of this government, but this has got nothing to do with the government actually. This is the issue of justice. And we think that that's the most important thing, that whether it is completed or not, that is not important, but whether due process of law has been followed and whether justice has prevailed. That's the main issue before us.
If you could identify yourselves before you speak.
Yes, so Pierre Alimbaud, director of Art Nomads, an NGO who has been involved with Bangladesh for the last 20 years. Well, actually, Mofidul, thanks a lot for your brilliant introduction. Can you give us a better insight of the Liberation War Museum activities to revive or to maintain, to keep alive the memory of these of the genocide, of what happened at that time, within the young generation? The activities you have been developing for the last 15 years.
Well, the museum was established in 1996, as I said before, when we were approaching 25th anniversary of our independence, and we found that nothing has been done actually to preserve the memory. And we thought that if we carry on the demand to the government to do this, maybe another 25 years will pass by. So we decided that if we make an initiative on behalf of the community, and if the community comes with their support, then this museum will be possible. And that's how the Liberation War Museum started its work and how it has grown over the years. And now we are in the process of constructing a proper museum. We have been given a piece of land by the government, and the construction is going on. And we have a plan to raise $17 million, which we think we can raise through our national effort. We will not take any donor support or fund. But what we feel most important is that in spite of all the denial during this long period from 1975 to onwards, when in the textbooks there were also tinkering in the textbooks, and also the history was distorted in various ways, but people kept the memory alive. And most importantly, with 3 million deaths, with such atrocities, which the widespread and systematic attack, when almost every village has suffered, almost every family has some losses within themselves. It's the family actually which kept the memory intergenerational. And through oral tradition, through many other way, the people has kept the memory actually alive, and we, Liberation War Museum, has only strengthened the whole process and given them an opportunity, a platform to come up with their artifacts, documents, or stories. And that's how the museum is now growing. And when we will have a new museum, I think it can tell the story of genocide in its widest dimension. And also we need to know not only what happened, how it happened, but also why it happened. And I think that's a very important task we all have, that it was targeted against the Hindus, but it was also one of the largest killing of Muslims by the Muslims. And that sometimes people does not register that much, that it was not in Bosnia that such things happened. It was Bangladesh in 1971. It was not a clash of civilization. That theory does not work. It's actually the otherness of other people. If you generate hatred and do not promote respect for the otherness, it can happen within a particular community also. And that's, I think, the very important lesson that Bangladesh genocide has to share with other people, and what Madam Lianman also highlighted.
Je vais m'exprimer en français parce qu'il y a une traduction. Je me présente d'abord. Jean-Pierre Bécu, je suis le trésorier de l'association que M. Kapasa a présenté tout à l'heure, qui est GK Savar Bangladesh. Donc, simplement en 2 mots, parce que ça fait un petit parallèle avec le génocide. Le comité, plutôt l'association Bangladesh GK Savar a été créée en 1971 par le docteur Zafrullah Chowdhury, qui était un jeune médecin à l'époque en Angleterre et qui justement à cause de la guerre qui s'est déclarée là-bas est revenu au pays avec plusieurs de ses collègues pour créer des hôpitaux de campagne, tant la situation était catastrophique au niveau sanitaire et médical. Et il a, à l'issue de la guerre, créé disons cette association pour s'occuper de la santé, de l'éducation et surtout de la promotion des femmes au Bangladesh. Donc depuis 42 ans maintenant, et dès 1972, à l'instigation d'un certain nombre de personnes françaises, s'est créé le comité français de soutien qui donc depuis 41 ans maintenant soutient ce comité français. C'était simplement parce que d'un certain côté il y a un parallèle, puisque le docteur Chaudhuri a vécu ça dans un peu le désespoir en installant des hôpitaux de campagne à la limite aux frontières indiennes notamment.
Yes, this is a very interesting effort, and now the process of this Ganashastra Kendra, Dr. Jafarullah, who has carried the legacy, and we from Liberation War Museum is also looking for many historical documents of what happened in 1971, and if we can get some documents or memento or something about the French doctors' participation in the Liberation War of Bangladesh, we will highly appreciate that, and if you can give us contacts, we can also look for that. So we would very much like to have this relationship and create the memory, because it was a global struggle actually for human rights and liberation.
Bonjour, je suis Behzad Naziri, je suis un ancien journaliste de l'agence France Presse à Téhéran et un rescapé des massacres de 30 000 prisonniers politiques en Iran en 1988. Je voulais remercier tout d'abord M. Mofidul Haq pour nous avoir ouvert les yeux et les oreilles sur un événement triste de notre histoire, sur une page. Et j'en suis reconnaissant pour la brillante présentation qu'il nous a fait. Je remercie ensuite notre ami M. Paolo Casaca, à qui je rends un hommage particulier pour cette présence tout-terrain où qu'il y a violation des droits de l'homme. Il est toujours présent et il est un défenseur infatigable sur les questions de droits de l'homme et particulièrement de génocide. Et Madame Marie-Noëlle Lienemann, dont je connais le dévouement depuis qu'elle était au Parlement européen, et aussi active et très sensible sur les questions de droits de l'homme. Je voudrais juste revenir sur ce que le professeur nous a particulièrement souligné, ce demi-siècle de silence. Ce demi-siècle de silence a évidemment couvert nombre de génocides. Et là, votre présentation me fait penser à un génocide qui a eu lieu en Iran, qui a eu lieu en août 1988, qui a duré plusieurs mois jusqu'au premier trimestre de 1989, qui a été confirmé par de nombreux rapports d'Amnesty International, qui a été qualifié de crime contre l'humanité par Amnesty International, par le rapporteur spécial de l'ONU pour les exécutions sommaires et arbitraires. Malheureusement, dans ce cas particulier, je ne voudrais pas étaler ici toutes les dimensions parce que cela a été relevé par nombre d'articles, parce que c'était sur un fatwa de Khomeini que 30 000 prisonniers politiques ont été exécutés seulement en répondant à une question par un oui ou par un non, sans aucun jugement. Mais ce dont je voudrais souligner ici, c'est que l'expression qui était utilisée, c'est-à-dire le mot Mohareb, en guerre contre Dieu, dans le fatwa de Khomeini, qui a été notamment mentionné dans la dernière résolution de l'Assemblée générale des Nations unies, qui a été adoptée le 17 décembre 2012 à New York, qui qualifie donc cette expression sans définition dans le droit international. cette expression de Mohareb qui signifie ennemi de Dieu continue toujours dans la législation iranienne. De nombreuses personnes qui ont été arrêtées dans les émeutes de 2009-2010 en Iran, notamment des membres et sympathisants de Moudjahidine du peuple d'Iran, ont été exécutés par cette expression. Madame Navi Pillay, la haute commissaire des droits de l'homme des Nations Unies, a dit que dissent is not a crime. Malgré ça, les personnes, les commanditaires, les auteurs, les exécutants de ce massacre sont toujours, au jour d'aujourd'hui, et c'est ça qui fait la différence avec la présentation que vous avez bien voulu nous faire, les auteurs, les commanditaires de ce massacre de 1988 sont toujours dans des postes clés au pouvoir en Iran, dans le pouvoir exécutif, dans le pouvoir législatif et dans le pouvoir judiciaire. Et malheureusement, cela n'a pas été pris en compte ni par les chancelleries, ni par les pays, ni par les différentes instances qui ont une approche avec l'Iran. Des photos similaires à ce que nous venons de voir ici, qui bouleversent chaque être humain, existent dans le cas du génocide iranien, mais cela n'a jamais été pris en compte, ni aucune chancellerie, à ma connaissance, aucun des pays, notamment occidentaux, en relation avec l'Iran, n'ont réclamé une enquête impartiale sur ce crime contre l'humanité qui, j'espère, avec les développements ultérieurs, sera aussi clarifié que nous venons de voir ici à travers votre présentation pour la communauté internationale. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much for pointing out that there are mass atrocities which happened in many places and which also became victim of silence. But the victims never allowed their right to justice to be forfeited. And that's what happened in Bangladesh. I think it's a difficult struggle, long struggle, but at the end, justice will prevail.
Hello, my name is Mr. Mohsinuddin Khan. I'm a Bengali community worker. Dear sir, I have a question. We have some echo in the community that some conspirator, they're playing the role to save these war criminals from the trial, and there is influencing to the politicians internationally and the diplomatic personalities. Is it true? And the opposition party of Bangladesh, they are helping them to play this role and save these criminals. Is it true?
Well, when you have almost 40 years of imposed impunity, and at the end, when the justice process has been initiated, it is quite understandable that there will be people who will be opposing the process, who will work to tarnish the image of the tribunal, and who will try to do everything they can to stop the justice process. The people who have been accused belong to Jamaat-e-Islami, which is a very resourceful political party, and they have engaged very qualified lawyers who were prosecutors or defense attorney in the Bosnian trial, ICTY, ICTR, and they pay them heavily to work on behalf of them. And one of the accused, Mir Qasim Ali, he has engaged lobbyist firm in the United States Congress, and these informations are available because of the First Amendment of the US Constitution, right to information, that they have paid quite a few $1 million to them to lobby on their behalf in the US Congress and media. So this is understandable, but we are for the struggle to uphold truth and justice, and I think that has greater strength than all the money in the world.
Oui, s'il vous plaît. Il n'y a pas d'autres.
Mafidul, can you tell us a bit more about the international coalition within international movements and coalitions in which the Liberation War Museum is involved too? this international coalition of memories place?
Well, that's Liberation War Museum. In 1999, we got in contact with another small museum in New York, which is Tenement House Museum, about the early immigrants settling in New York City, about their life. And they convened a meeting at Bellagio, Italy in 1999, and along with us, there are 8 other museums which have participated in the meeting, and we have launched an international coalition of historic sites of conscience. And the other museums are from USA. It is Japanese American Interns Museum in LA, about the Japanese American citizens who were taken into the camps during the Second World War. Then Memoria Abierta from Argentina, the museum upholding the memory of the mother of the victims. And from Czech Republic, Terezin Museum, which is a Holocaust museum. From South Africa, it is District 6 Museum, which is an anti-apartheid museum. And we were the only museum from Asia. Now this coalition is spreading its wings, and we have from Russia also, we have Gulag Museum in Parm, which is upholding the story of Stalinist concentration camp. And this coalition has given us much strength that we are not alone in our struggle in the, and also now we are expanding, and we have established a larger network in Asia with 12 Slang Genocide Museum in Cambodia, and with Sabarmati Gandhi Ashram in Ahmedabad, India. So there are many other museums, which some of them are very small museum, like the Task Force Detainees Museum in Philippines, in Manila, which is about the political prisoners, which is a very important issue for Iran and for other countries also. So I think such efforts of having a international link and understanding, and I think the size doesn't matter, but the spirit that a museum or historic site upholds is very important. And that's why I am very inspired by this meeting, also by the South Asia Democratic Forum, that a very strong initiative for justice has been initiated in the great city of Paris and in the Senate Hall, which I think will have much greater significance for many people and will be a new strength to our struggle.
You said that the party of Jamaat-e-Islami gave money to lobbies, and I want to know how do they get this money? How they get this money?
Well, I think that's a global issue, that how the organization which uphold the philosophy of terror, how they are funded, how they became so fabulously rich. And I think this is a very important issue which need to be looked much more deeply, that who are behind them, who are financing them. And now with a lot of discussion about money laundering and Taliban issues, but the other parties which present themselves as part of the democratic process, but which is also generating such hatred and venom within the community. I think this is a very important issue to look into this, and for that I think we need a kind of global network and initiative to unearth the network of not only indoctrination, how they are recruiting their people, how they are tampering with the religious theological education, and also how they get their resource to carry on such work, and how they train them to be a so-called jihadis.